You mentioned a story about how when you were first starting, your brother-in-law was very adamant about, okay, let's do this therapy thing.
Huge advocate of it.
And you were adamant. It was like, okay, if I'm gonna do therapy, you're gonna do social media.
Yep.
Can you break down that story of like that conversation?
Yeah, I think look, for me, I pitched them the moment I joined as the third founder. My whole pitch was a slide deck that had two slides. One was the Backstreet Boys, one was Spice Girls. And I said that if we're going to win, we are going to act like a boy or a girl band. Okay. But instead of selling records, we're going to sell chocolate. And they looked at me and they said, what the hell does that mean? But my brother-in-law kind of he's like, wait, bands, you're fans of them. Mm-hmm. You don't just listen to music, you go to their concerts, you buy their merch. You're part of their story. So I was pitching them on this concept where it can't just be a chocolate bar. It has to be something that's emotionally connected to people. People need to actually care. When they go to a grocery store, they need to be like, I know these people, I love them, or I fucking hate them and I'm not buying it, but at least it creates their attention because there's 40,000 products in a supermarket. So if we want to stand out, we couldn't spend the money to stand out. We couldn't amplify our voice. Yeah. We needed people to care. So I said, let's act like a band, but instead of selling records, we sell chocolate. And they're introverts, so they were like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, we're going to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to show, what this looks like on an emotional level of building a business. I'm not talking about making the product. I'm talking about the fights. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the therapy sessions we do. At the time, we weren't doing them. But I was like, the breakdowns, the moments of chaos. Let's unfiltered show everything. Yeah. That way people can feel like they're front row on this journey. And they were like, this doesn't make sense. They asked me at the same time if I would go to therapy. Because they said that if we don't work on our communication as partners and as family, we might not be family after this journey. Because when you bring money, when you bring entrepreneurship, business, it's a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
The odds are stacked against you. Businesses, if you look at the data, they're not supposed to work, by the way. There's very limited amount that actually succeed. Yeah. And my partners were just like, if we want to do this, we need to be communicating for alignment at all levels, every bit. So he said to me, I'll never forget, Nick said to me, my brother-in-law, he said, we're going to go to therapy once every 7 to 10 days, perpetual, for good or bad times, and good and bad, not just bad, but good, to protect our partnership.
And what'd you say?
I said to him, dude, I'm the happiest guy. I don't need this. I was in fraternities before hockey. I was like, I thought therapy was for when you're going through something. And I was naive at the time, right? I was immature. And now I'm a huge advocate for therapy. I've been depressed multiple times on this journey. I've gone through burnout and moments of where I've lost control of my life and felt like I didn't even know who I was. And therapy is what got me through. And it's actually empowering. It's not for people that are, people would say damaged or going through something, quotations. And that's what I used to think.
There's a stigma around
it. Which it shouldn't be. This is, I look at it as athletes, LeBron James has so many coaches around him. Why don't you have coaches around you? Why don't I have coaches around you? Mental coaches, physical coaches. Mm-hmm. This is a mental coach. And if your mental health and your mental check is not in check, for example, you're fucked. Mm-hmm. So when my partner said, you do this, I asked them to do the stories. We both made an agreement. We signed those agreements and we said, we'll give it a couple months. And if it doesn't work, it's done, this thing. And those were the two best investments Midday Squares made to date, guaranteed. Mm-hmm. Storytelling has driven the brand. And therapy has made sure that my partners and I remained aligned, remained family, and loved each other, and has allowed us to make critical decisions in moments that, had so much pressure and moments of absolute chaos, carnage that have been, therapy has allowed us to get so clear. And we always say, we got somewhere, not just, arguing, but we actually led to a decision and an action, and we respect each other through that. And I think that, again, I would advise anyone in business to go to a therapy or coaching or some sort of communication effort, because without communication, everything will collapse. Mm-hmm.